I can tell you the story of my laptop. Odyssey, I think is what I called it.
Yeah.
So, cast your mind back to Thursday. So, I turn my laptop off, I'm just thinking this is a normal annoying thing. I go to turn it on, and I get this blue screen. So then eventually, my dad directs me to the screwdriver I need. I take my hard drive out. And then that will be on me. Meanwhile, my dad knows quite a bit about computers because he's a programmer. So I'm like, I'll just get him. Screw my laptop back together, so taking it apart was completely pointless. But then I see this thing that says, what you can do, Luke. So I click on it, and then I get this matrix thing happening on my laptop, like all of these different letters and numbers scrolling across, and I'm like, okay, that looks bad. And then I see users Michael Brown, and I click on it, Luke, and guess what? Everything was there. I'm a technical mastermind. Isn't that great?
Michael, I really hope that's not the cold open.
Isn't it a good story?
No, it was like the most boring thing ever.
Oh, I don't think you were listening. I'll have to do it again.
That's the problem, I was listening.
What I could do is I could fast forward it. That's funny.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Well, we could have
I know how to fast forward things because I'm a technical genius.
Back up, chump, Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get. With the hoods, fatigues, with the boots, with trees. Flipping cheese, making crazy cheese. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Volvos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wet in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox, grip the clock. When I walk down the crowded blocks. Just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out, blow the motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second watch. I am your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are ending our Halloween spectacular by looking at the film A Quiet Place. We should have been recording this on exactly Halloween, but there were some problems. And also, that's why everything's going to be uploaded in a weird way. But apart from that, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about A Quiet Place?
Sure thing, Michael. So, A Quiet Place is a 2018 American science fiction film, and also a horror film and a thriller film perhaps as well, directed by John Krasinski, who wrote the screenplay with Brian Woods and Scott Beck. Also stars Brian Krasinski and Emily Blunt as well. It was released on April the 6th, 2018, in the United States, and uses, the languages used in this movie are English and American Sign Language as well. So, yeah, that's a first. First movie we've watched that contains sign language. So I just thought I'd point that out. So, Michael, the budget. How much do you think it cost to make?
I'm going to guess quite low. I'm thinking, I'm going to go for 4 million.
It's between 17 and 21 million. So, yeah, quite a bit higher than maybe before, but still relatively cheap.
Yes.
Yeah. How about the box office? How much did it make?
See, again, this is one of those weird ones where, I feel like it's going to be an It Follows, where it's kind of I heard a lot about this film, but then maybe it's going to be a reverse It Follows, where I assume it's an It Follows, where it didn't make that much, but actually made a lot. I'm going to go for... I don't think this did that well, but I think, seeing as it cost 17 million, I just assume it didn't, it must have made a decent amount. So I'm going to go for actually just 30 million.
Michael, you keep outdoing yourself. Every week your guesses just get worse and worse. Take that 30 million and times it by 10.
300 million.
338 million.
Jeez. I mean, I'm kind of surprised because, like, I don't know, like, I thought this would be an It Follows. That was my logic. I was like, so it was a reverse It Follows, basically. Because with It Follows, I thought, I've heard loads about It Follows. I've heard loads of reviewers talking about it and things like that. So I guessed quite high, and you were like, hey, actually, it didn't make that much. So then this time I'm like, okay, I've heard loads of people talking about Quiet Place, so I'm going to guess that it's going to be another It Follows, and it's actually going to be quite low.
Yeah.
One time I'll get it right.
Well, the thing is, I saw that SNL did a parody of it. So.
Oh, see, I hadn't seen that. That would be a good indication.
It's like, obviously SNL does a parody of a movie, like, it's going to be more than 30 million, you would assume.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. A Quiet Place, incredibly successful. 338 million on a budget of 17 to 21. Again, just if you want to make massive profit margins, horror movies are the way to go, as we've seen in the last month. So yeah, Michael, A Quiet Place, did you like it?
Well, Luke, this might be potentially my hottest take. I'm interested to hear what you'll say, because I thought this film was bordering on I didn't like it that much.
Oh wow. That is a hot take. See, this is interesting because normally you and I, we agree on stuff a lot of the time. But yeah, you didn't like it. Wow. I have to say I did like it. I did enjoy it. So yeah, me and you are probably going to dip on this one. That's exciting.
Yeah. That's crazy. This has never happened. Yeah, I was wondering, like, I was curious to hear if you were going to ask me first or I was going to ask you first, and yeah, we disagree. Okay, well, anyway, certainly we usually have nitpicks, so have you got any nitpicks, Luke?
I haven't, no.
You haven't got any nitpicks?
No, I haven't, so...
Well, this is interesting because I've got 7.
Oh my god. Fuck it. I was like, nah, I don't think he'll have any nitpicks either, because it's such a simple movie. It's relatively short as well. It's literally like an hour and 23 minutes long. It's like, yeah, there won't be... And you got 7. Okay, let's save them.
And also, I mean, like, see, the thing is, like, some of my things that I've put under other things, I could have put under nitpicks as well. And also, I want to say this. I'll say this up front. This is possibly the first film we've done where the totality of my nitpicks does form a reasonable percentage of my problem with this film. Mainly that I had, like, a lot of problems with this film in terms of, like, the nitpicks. So I'll go through my nitpicks, okay?
So they're more than nitpicks is what you're saying, really?
Yeah, in a way. But the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I didn't know where else to put them.
Yeah,
so
okay,
just,
fair enough.
So, number one, they're walking around in bare feet, when really they should obviously just be wearing very thick socks. Obviously. Like, because, number one, then you're not going to get shit in your feet. They're getting, like, they're going to get stuff in their feet, like, all the time. They're going to tread on screws, and they're going to die. And also, it will be quieter. Like, if they were wearing thick socks, it would just make so much more sense. Number 2, this one's a weird one, okay? And this one might be wrong. There's a bit where water is running into where the woman is in the basement. She's in the basement. There's loads of water everywhere.
Yeah, Emily Blunt. Yeah.
This was really strange to me because, like, I couldn't get my head around it. It seemed like as John Krasinski left the room, the water was already running, and he just ignored it. Like, the way it was shot, you could see the water. I don't know if it was like some kind of weird cut, maybe, but it was like he was leaving the room, and then you could see the water running.
So you're saying he should have noticed it?
Yeah, basically.
All right. Well, he was going to save his kids, so.
Yeah, I guess. And now I've got I don't understand how any wild animals are alive in this, because what happened was there were these raccoons making this noise, and it was a kind of fake out. And I was thinking, okay, so I guess it doesn't go up, it only goes after people. But then it kills one of the raccoons, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, how are these guys, if the whole thing with this monster is that it literally hears you, you drop anything, you even talk, it can hear you. How are these raccoons only just getting got on day 500?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Then, I've got, okay, this one's a big one, actually. How that screw just makes no sense. Because it's, like, number one, it gets, like, bent. Like, it's a big, hefty screw. I guess it gets bent up by the potato sack. Ooh, I accidentally knocked my headphones out, so one sec. It gets bent up by the potato sack. And also, who put that screw there? What someone had to do is get under the stairs, hammer a screw up, and then bend it down. And I was just very confused by that screw. Like, it would have made infinitely more sense if someone just dropped a screw. Like, someone had to hammer that screw in there. So whoever did that was a weirdo.
Yeah, I also thought, like, how has no one stepped on that screw yet? Like, assuming they've been at this house for months. How has nobody stepped on that yet? But whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's your next one?
I've got two related ones. So the first one is they go to a waterfall, and the guy basically says, hey, once you're here, you can literally shout as loud as you like. And I was kind of thinking they should probably live closer to the waterfall then.
Yeah, well, that's on the whole, how do you get around this thing we'll be doing later.
Yes, exactly. And then the other one is, I was kind of thinking like the baby thing, it was a bit like weird to me, because I was thinking like it shouldn't have caught them by so much surprise. Like, they had a plan, but then, like, I don't know, it was just like,
what do you mean, the baby thing?
So, like, the baby's born, and I was like, so first of all I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this baby's going to make a lot of noise. And I didn't really like their plan. Their plan was to put the baby in a box, and then put oxygen in the box, and then shut the box so the baby wouldn't make a noise. That seems like a kind of short-sighted plan, because obviously, like, in the time it takes them to get to the box, the baby's going to make noise. And again, this is a universe where just, saying a stray word accidentally can get you killed. So it seemed like a weird plan. And then, but the thing is, the reason why I say it's kind of related is because then I wrote, they should just go to the waterfall. So it's kind of related. But yeah, they should just go to the waterfall, have the baby there. And then the final one, and this one was like, really? Like, so obviously we watched The Descent. And the thing with The Descent is that, like, the monsters could also only navigate around by sound.
Yes.
And one of the problems with that is, of course, that sound is basically just like waves. So, like, waves of, sound waves, vibrations. And they can detect the vibrations. But, there's a bit where she's in the water, and she's, like, moving around, and the creature is also in the water. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the big thing about water is that, like, sound travels through it, because, it's densely packed, what's it called, like particles, so it moves quickly. And I was thinking, like, it should be able to, like, hear her moving around, hear the splashes, and localize the splashes. So I was I don't know, I was just thinking to myself, like, yeah, you should be able to hear someone walking around. And those are all of my nitpicks. So we can move on to the premise now, Luke.
Well, yeah, we didn't actually go through the plot, Michael, before we talked about the nitpicks.
Yeah, so we can do the premise and the plot very related. So yeah, do the plot.
So the plot is, well, a family who struggles in a post-apocalyptic world. The family faces monsters, which are blind and have an acute sense of hearing, as you've already said. And basically they just have to survive in this very harsh, unforgiving world where, like you said, if you just speak, you could be dead within seconds because of these monsters. So yeah, there you go. A Quiet Place. What do you think of the premise then, Michael?
Well, you know what, Luke? I'll say this again. I liked the premise. I thought this film was a very good premise, and I have two very positive things to say, first of all.
Okay.
Number one is I like the subtle ways they established the universe. Like, there's a lot of kind of things in the background you can read, things you can check out, and then just, like, things that the characters are doing, which are, like, And the thing that I particularly liked was there was a bit where they were making the dinner, and they were kind of giving out the food. And I was thinking to myself, as they were making the dinner, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, if they've got a plate in this universe, or knives and forks, then it's going to be a nightmare, because, obviously, like, every single person will drop a knife and a fork, or drop a plate, over a given number of years. That's going to happen. And I was thinking, yeah, if they have that, that's going to be stupid. But then, of course, credit to them, what they had is they were kind of eating with their hands, and they were, like, eating out of leaves. Like, they had, like, these big leaves, and they had food in the leaves, and they were eating out of it. So, like, I like things like that. I thought that kind of stuff was really clever. So I really did enjoy that, and that was... So, yeah, and also I like the premise in general. What did you think of the premise, Luke?
No, yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Like,
I think it would have been funny if you said, I hated it.
Yeah, the thing is, it's similar to The Descent, in a way that there's monsters that, you have to not make a sound, otherwise they're going to kill you. And I imagine throughout other horror movies there have been similar monsters which can't see but rely on sound, so you have to be quiet, you have to be silent. And yeah, it's like the Weeping Angels, I guess, as well. Like, the thing is with them, you can't blink, and you can't turn your back. And obviously with this, you just can't talk. So yeah, we've had monsters that are similar to monsters in this movie A Quiet Place. But yeah, I would say the premise is interesting. It's, even though, like I said, I think we've had similar monsters, it was something quite unique about
this film took it further.
Yeah,
this film kind of took like what is usually just a monster quirk and made it a
whole universe,
integral part of the universe.
Yeah. It was all about, everything was about, obviously they learned sign language. That's how big a deal it is. It's not just, there are these monsters and we have to keep quiet. Like, they literally have to change their whole lives around this thing that these monsters can do. So yeah, that's why I say it was unique. They, like you said, they take it further than they have than any movie I've seen before. So yeah, unique, fresh, interesting, and I think it was executed quite well.
Yeah, I've actually realised I'm going to do a bit of a compliment sandwich with regards to actually it's more like an open-faced compliment sandwich.
Okay.
Because it's so I've got one problem with the premise. This is, again, it's kind of a nitpick. This is what I mean when I say I put some nitpicks in stuff. The one problem with the premise, and it's hard not to ignore this, is that again, this is like an inconsistency with the way like these hearings works. Like, it can hear you from what looks to be at least 100 yards away, because at one point in the film, they've kind of got like this alarm system where if one of them enters their property, these red lights go off or something, like, because I think that's what it is, because he gets there and he sees the red lights and he's like, oh no, one of them's in the house.
Yeah.
So they got this, and that looks to be about 100 yards away from the house. Of course, the problem is that that means that it can hear you talk from, say, and we'll just assume that they're not literally hanging just outside, so they must be, a bit further away. So it can hear you talk from over 100 miles away, but then, for example, there's a scene where she's like sobbing because she's having contractions and she's just stabbed herself, and it's in the same room as her, and it's a bit like, okay, surely someone sobbing in the same room as you would be just as loud, if not more loud, than somebody talking 100 miles away. So that was like, again, I'll forgive it, because I just thought like, well, it's obviously just a part of the universe. But I was thinking like, hold a minute, so it can hear you when you're quite far away and you make a very small noise, but then when you make a not that much smaller noise and it's, much closer, it can't hear you. But
that's the thing, I was thinking that, by the way. We could, if we were the monster in that situation, we could hear Emily Blunt like crying or sobbing. So how does the monster not hear her?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll forgive it.
Also, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a bit like I don't know which Superman film it is. I think it's Superman 1, the 1978 version. But it's a bit where Superman can literally hear everything. Actually, no, I think it's from Superman Returns. But he can literally hear everything. And there's basically a scene where he kind of learns to tune out all of the like irrelevant stuff, so he's only focusing on the things he needs to hear. So I'm going to guess
that sounds like Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar, but like weirdly, yeah. I don't know. I think maybe the Bruce Almighty thing stole it, or I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Well, he was imitating God, Bruce Almighty, and to be fair, Superman is God. Yeah, very
exactly.
Similar,
yeah, but yeah. So maybe these monsters have like a moment where like they learn to listen to certain sounds. I mean, that was kind of my other problem with the fact animals died, because I was thinking like, okay, maybe the way it's worked is it's learned. This was my theory. Okay, it's learned that there are all these different noises. But like some of those noises aren't relevant. So the only thing it can hear is if it hears people talking, it identifies that as, something to go hunt. The problem with that is, number one, if you drop a plate, they come and check it out. Which makes me think like when like a pine cone falls in a forest, that they will just go like, they just like, their life must just be filled with constant disappointments, because anytime there's like anything falls on the floor, they're like, okay, let's go check it out, which I found funny in my head. But yeah, like, I don't know. So yeah, it's inconsistent. Now my compliment bread is, so it's a very cinematic premise. And one of the things I'm fond of saying is that a good film is a film where you can watch it without dialogue and still like know what's going on. So like just by the way that the actors are emoting and the way they're kind of like they're carrying themselves, and from the visuals, because one of the things that everyone says who's a Ponzi movie review critic is they talk about how film is a visual medium. So if the only form of storytelling you have is dialogue and things like that, then that's not very cinematic. The cinematic thing to do is to tell this stuff through sound and well, sound is dialogue. That's I didn't mean to say sound. Tell these things through visuals and acting. That's the clever thing to do. And of course, what this film does, again, to its credit, is it makes it so it has to tell a lot of its story through, minimal dialogue, people mostly just acting.
Yes.
And then finally, for the open-faced part of my open-faced compliment sandwich. I do have one thing. This is a classic example of me liking the idea of a film taking the premise to the nth degree. Because one of the things I was thinking is that in the spirit of that, I almost think it would have been interesting if the characters didn't have a deaf daughter. Because the fact that they have a deaf daughter means they're using an established form of sign language. And what I think could have been interesting, I was kind of thinking this while I was watching it, is if they had their own made-up version of sign language, and basically it was like really simple, but it was things like, for example, they have like they, and maybe with they kind of do this like cruelly thing with their hands, and they're like can't, shake their heads, here, point at their ear, you. Like that's kind of like how they talk, and you as the audience have to be like, okay. And it's like, it makes it more immersive, because the problem with this is it's not quite as immersive, because it's literally like, oh, they can still talk, they just have to talk with sign language. It would be kind of like clever if it was like, or like more interesting if it was people who literally couldn't talk at all, and the only way they could communicate was through very simple, obviously intuitive hand gestures. I was thinking that would be kind of cool. And then the other thing is like, there's like, seems to be like the film wants the characters to be able to talk in too many situations. Like it takes them to that place. Like this is actually another nitpick. I suppose. they go to that place like beneath the mattress where like and then they start talking, and they're like, oh, you can talk here because they can't hear you when you're beneath the mattress. And it's like, well, why don't they just, I mean, they can literally just go there anytime they want to talk then. So it's kind of like, it would have been, again, like more interesting, I think, if they literally couldn't talk anywhere. And then, for example, literally the only time when anyone says anything or makes any noise would be, when, I've forgotten his name, John Krasinski makes the sacrifice.
Yes.
By the way, fun fact about about John Krasinski's sacrifice, in The Descent Part 2, which is terrible, Sarah returns, and she, at the end, she has this sacrifice moment where, because obviously they hear sound, and she basically does what John Krasinski does, but she does the most hilarious noise ever. She's like, eh, and then they all like start running on, and it's playing like this emotional music because of her self-sacrifice, but she's just there like, eh, and it's very funny.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I just would like to say I do like your idea, Michael, about how if one of the kids wasn't deaf, and so, like you said, they'd have to basically do made-up sign language. So the sign language they made up themselves. However, that may... So obviously they cast someone, I can't remember what the actress is called. I think it's like Millicent Simmons or whatever.
Is that the deaf?
Yeah, that's the deaf girl.
Yeah.
She's obviously deaf in real life. And so it's, for them, maybe it was kind of like, oh look, we're putting a deaf girl, as someone who can't hear. Yeah, look inclusive.
Are you saying it's SJWs?
SJWs ruined this movie. No, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, like, it's an interesting twist. It's like, because the fact is she can't hear, and you would assume, oh, that's not that big a deal in this world, but it actually is a big deal, because then she can't tell if she's being too loud. So that adds another challenge to it. So yeah, I do like your idea though of, made up, sign language. That would have been fun to see.
Yeah. There's this, film, on a related note. I can't think what the film's called, but basically this guy goes to this, like, Amazonian tribe where every single person is blinded at birth. It's like a fictional film. It's not it doesn't actually
really?
happen. Every single person is blinded at birth. And he gets there, and basically, because it's kind of like a classic, when you're blind, all your other senses are enhanced thing. So they basically do things by feel. But basically, there's a bit in the film where the people decide that him being able to see is bad because it means he's not as, he hasn't got as good hearing or as good smell or anything else. Yeah. So basically they decide that they're going to steal his eyes and are like, we're going to kill you. And then he runs away, obviously, because he doesn't want that to happen. And there's a bit where it's nighttime. He's running through the forest and he can't see where he's going. But the tribesmen, because they're blind, are able to hunt him down really quickly. And the important thing is, Luke, that is the important thing.
You love to watch movies with, like, Amazonian tribes hunting down
people.
people.
It is weird, actually. For some reason, like, those films seem to be... Because one of the ways I end up watching films is just by looking at Film 4.
Okay, yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know, Film 4 loves to show... Oh, speaking of which, The Descent was on Film 4, like, this week.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, crazy.
Oh, that's cool.
Anyway, I feel like there was... Oh, yeah. This isn't... This. I just realised this. Okay. The guy whose wife dies and then he randomly starts shouting
Oh yeah.
is kind of weird, because it's like, why did he wait until they showed up? He just like stood there like, I'm grumpy. And then John Krasinski, like, it basically just makes him look like an arsehole. John Krasinski's like, please don't shout.
Please don't kill me.
I wanted to see him just like, can you not? Excuse me.
I know you're having a bad day, but that doesn't mean I have to as well.
I think what would be a good twist is if, this is so funny, what I'm about to say right now is so funny, is if at the end they went into a library and everyone there was still alive. Because none of them were talking. And all the people in the library didn't even know something was going on. They were just like, oh, hi there.
That would be a good SNL skit.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the SNL skit The Librarian, starring, what's her name?
Margot Robbie?
Yeah, Margot Robbie.
Yeah, I have seen it. I vaguely remember it. She's meant to be hot, but in fact she's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. She's meant to be hot, but in fact she's not. Good rhyme. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers the premise. So yeah, I like the premise, but I think they could have done more with it. Now, the plot. What do you want to say about the plot, Luke?
Well, actually, if we could just, I don't know if this covers the premise, Michael, but I feel like we need to talk about this.
I'm ready.
Because it involves basically sign language and so on. So I thought there was no subtitles.
I also thought there were no subtitles. You know what, Luke? There were subtitles.
They were.
Weren't there? And that's the thing, like, because when you were talking about how there was like sign, because I was thinking to myself, like, that was kind of my basis for everything I was saying about how, like, it's interesting to not be able to know what they're saying, and I almost think it made the film better.
I think so too. I thought it was an interesting choice. I thought, hey, it makes you more engrossed in this world, in this universe. It's like, oh, this must be what it's like, because you don't know what they're saying, and it's like, oh, you're really in this world now. But afterwards, I learned that they in fact did have subtitles, but there just wasn't any on the version I was watching. So at various points I was like, I would like to know what they're saying here, but I guess it's an artistic choice to make sure that the audience don't know what you're saying. Yeah, and you have to infer it, but no, they didn't make that choice.
Yeah. That also explains why you agreed with because my comment about how, like, it would be good if they were only using intuitive sign language where you had to work out what they were saying.
Yeah, I can see it from that perspective.
That was born out of that reality.
Yeah, I wasn't going to criticize it for not, like I said, having having the subtitles for the sign language. I just wasn't going to criticize it because I thought, you know what, I respect the choice, but I'm not sure if it would have been better, because the thing is, at the end when John Krasinski... It
is worth noting, we are reviewing this film when neither of us know pretty much a single piece of dialogue from the film.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's like suddenly like this incredible like conversation that will just go down in history as the best example of screenwriting, and neither of us are aware of it, but whatever.
I think, but that's the thing, you're trying to infer, you're trying to work out what they're saying, and at the end when John Krasinski is saying to his daughter, like, I love you, I have always loved you, you can tell, like, because he goes the I and then he points to his heart, and it's like a really emotional moment, and it's like, I think that pays off better if there are no subtitles. I think it does, because then you understand it. And it's like, oh, I don't really get some of the subtitles, but I understand that, and it's a really big emotional moment. But yeah, obviously, if there is subtitles, then, I mean, it's like, it makes it easier to watch, I guess, but it's not as...
Yeah, it's not as bold.
No, it's not as bold, no. You get more out of it if you don't have subtitles on.
That's our recommendation, yeah. We'll give our recommendation is watch the film without subtitles on.
Yeah.
Unless you know American Sign Language, in which case it's not going to work either way.
Yeah, like, if you know American Sign Language, like, you could watch. Well, yeah. Anyway,
watch the film.
Yeah, it's just like a normal film for you.
Yeah. What would be funny is if have you ever watched like a film on terrestrial TV and they have like a sign language guy in the corner?
Yeah.
What would be? I wonder if they're going to have him when they do. If they ever show on TV, have the sign language guy in the corner be like signing along. Yeah.
No, he can just sit down and just watch the movie. He doesn't
I like that. Just have him sat in the corner not doing anything.
So, hey,
look, it's the sign language guy. I don't know why he's like just sometimes randomly there. Like sometimes we watch films.
It's because it's late at night, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah,
that's when he's around.
So you got to watch. So you got to watch it with the volume off. So that's why it's late at night. They can't make sense.
You know what? I do remember actually one time back in second year, Dylan. I came downstairs and Dylan and Alex were watching it. It was like BBC News at like 1:00 in the morning. And there was a sign language person.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, you were there as well. And they were just like, I don't know if it was offensive, but they were just kind of mimicking the person and just laughing.
Yes, I
about
do
mimicking
remember
it.
that.
Yeah, and it was like, I'd never considered it offensive at the time. Perhaps it is,
Yeah, maybe it is.
Now-
Maybe it's ableist.
but yeah, it was just like it was quite funny, Michael.
You know what though? The word ableist doesn't work because it implies like the most able.
Yeah.
Like I'm the ableist. So they need to sort it out. But also, yeah, I feel like kids shows have more sign language dudes. Like I don't know, for some reason kids shows like they make you think like every single person is differently abled. Because it's like, and now it's our kids show for blind people, and now it's our kids show for deaf people, and now it's our kids show for autistics.
Yeah, wonderful.
You know, George from Arthur is autistic. Yeah, like Arthur, for example. In Arthur, every single person has got something wrong with them.
What's Arthur's issue?
He punches his sister.
He ugly as fuck.
Yeah, he puts. Have you ever seen that meme where he puts the headphones? I feel like you've mentioned it to me before, so I'm pretty sure you have. He puts the headphones like over his head.
Oh yeah.
Then he's got ears on the top of his head.
Yeah.
That's his issue. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Arthur might actually be no. I feel like Arthur's got something wrong with him. Like I feel like there's an episode where Arthur finds out he's dyslexic or something.
Maybe.
And then there's an episode where one of them finds out they're allergic to like milk
Allergic
or
to milk.
nuts or something.
Yeah, nuts sounds more reasonable.
Well, one of them is allergic to milk though, because one of them says like, and they make chocolate with rice milk, and it tastes just as good as regular milk.
Ah, fuck off.
And then
No, it
one of them looks at the camera and goes, "Wow, I guess people with allergies are just as normal as everyone else." Imagine having allergies.
Is Arthur still on?
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like, or at least do you know Steven Crowder?
No.
Okay, he's a conservative talk show personality.
Oh, great.
He voiced Brain on Arthur.
Really?
That's crazy. But he only voiced him. This is actually a weird thing about Arthur. I didn't know this, but the voice actors change like quite regularly. Like if you look up any of the characters, it'll be like played by, and it'll be like seasons 1 to 3, seasons 4 to 5. Like they have like all these different voice actors, but they do a good job with consistency. So well done them.
Fair enough. Anyway, let's get off Arthur and back to A Quiet Place.
Yes.
And so onto the plot, Michael. Onto the plot.
Yeah, you can talk first, Luke.
Okay.
I talk about this first. You get to talk about plot first, and then I talk about scariness first.
So the thing is, Michael, this is a film about family, and that's what makes it so powerful.
A bit like Daddy's Home.
Oh, did you not get the reference?
God, I don't. What I feel like I do know the reference. Is it to do with Star Wars?
Yeah, it's to do with Star Wars. Yes, Carrie Fisher.
Yes,
Which
got
is,
you.
it's a film about family, and that's what makes it so powerful. I think it's powerful. Maybe she said special. I'm not sure. That's what makes it so special. But yeah, basically, the point, I'm saying it unironically, in terms of this movie, A Quiet Place, because it really is about family. Like, it's more about how the family cope with what's going on around them, about what's happened, and it's not about, how this awful situation came to be, basically. But it's all about how the family tries to cope and finds a way to stick with it through these tough times. And that's the thing, I like this, because I've watched so many of these movies where there's like, it's a post-apocalyptic world, and there's these monsters, and you don't really care about how it happened. It's like, yeah, sure, there was some experiment gone wrong, that's pretty much always the answer. I'm not really that bothered. So, this movie was similar, I think, to Cloverfield movie that came out a couple of years ago. Not the recent one.
Yeah.
The one that came out a couple of
yeah.
years ago. It's like, okay, this is a post-apocalyptic world, and it's not explained how we got to this place, but we got to this place, and then it's like just how these characters cope with the situation. And obviously, it's how, in A Quiet Place, it was how this family copes this situation. The film is about family. And, I think, honestly, it was a good choice to not have them like try to find out what happened or try to fix it. It's just like, hey, this is our life. This is what we're trying to get through day to day. Which was good, I thought. So, what do you think about that, Michael?
Have you ever heard the theory that the Flintstones and the Jetsons are both set in the same apocalyptic universe, where back in the past, there was a apocalyptic event where the elite moved to space, like sky outside of the Earth, and that's where the Jetsons live. But on the ground is where the Flintstones live, and there's no more technology because it's all been destroyed.
I haven't heard that theory.
I mean, it sounds like it makes complete sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can't pick a hole in it. to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, no. So yeah, I agree. I think it was an interesting choice, especially like, well, see, actually, it's kind of weird because this is my official point. We're going to talk a bit about like how scary or not scary this film was, but I would say generally speaking, horror films tend to be not about family because, you know, that makes them, I don't know, like it just ruins the scariness for some reason. Horror films, it's usually about a group of kids, or a group of young adults, or something like that.
Yeah.
Not usually about family, and if it is about family, then it's, you know, The Visit, where the family are evil, scary people. But sci-fi films, like, for example, Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, the not bad but not good M. Night Shyamalan film that he made after Unbreakable.
Yeah.
And then there's what's it called? War of the Worlds, starring Tom Cruise. That's about family. He's got to go reunite with his family. So that's my theory, okay? Sci-fi films are often about family, especially if they're set on Earth. If they're set on Earth, it's about this family on Earth dealing with their sci-fi situation.
After Earth,
horror films aren't. So yeah, I liked the decision. I thought it was a good decision. And obviously it led to, for example, moments like the I Love You, which worked quite well. It was like family drama. Also, personal highlight, the bit where they have a little silent disco with the headphones.
Yeah, the earphones,
so that was, yeah.
Sweet.
Also, they really, I think they would have saved themselves a lot of aggro if they would have grabbed a bag of condoms. You know, clearly they're going to the chemist and stuff, like at the beginning of the film. I think the film would have been very different if at the chemist, instead of picking up a noisy aeroplane, they would have picked up some condoms.
See, I was waiting.
Especially seeing as that scene immediately proves that kids are retarded. Sorry, I can't say retarded.
Oh yeah, that kid, like, this probably should have been a nitpick actually. I don't know.
Yeah,
why
I kind of wanted to. I've got him written down, and I haven't got it. I wrote it was so satisfying watching that kid get killed. It really was.
Well, I didn't go that far, but I'm just like, okay, so the kid is smart enough to know you put batteries in the aeroplane and the aeroplane makes a sound, but he's not smart enough to know that he absolutely should not do that because his dad has told him not to, and he's lived in this world. He must know that it's dangerous to make any noise, but he does it anyway. So it's like
the kid is really weird.
Yeah,
I actually heard like a fun little take on this, not a hot take, just a regular take, maybe a lukewarm take. Basically, it was saying how like it would have been better and more emotionally impactful if the kid realized he'd made a mistake. Like maybe the kid accidentally turned the. I mean, like obviously it wouldn't really work because he'd put the batteries in. But you know, like maybe if say for example you missed the whole battery thing, and you know he accidentally turned it on, and then you'd have a moment where the kid realizes that he's made a mistake, and then the dad runs towards him in concern, and the kid maybe runs towards the dad because he's scared, and then the kid is killed. That would have been more emotionally impactful, mostly because the kid wouldn't look like a complete moron. Like literally, they could have just had the kid just go "Duh, colours" and then die. I don't know. It was almost funny. So yeah, I can't really get behind that kid.
No, I mean he just dies in a stupid way. Yeah, it should have been a nitpick really. But yeah,
and then. Also, I was going to say that leads on to, I don't know if you're about to change the conversation. If not, then I've really ruined this for you, Luke. But also that leads on to the girl. The dad blames the girl for giving the boy the batteries. No, she doesn't actually. She gives him the toy, and then he takes the batteries. To be honest, I would blame everyone for making the boy be the last one to leave the room. That was their mistake, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Like, here's the funny thing in a way, okay? The boy took the batteries anyway. And what that tells you is that, well,
he's not aware of the seriousness of the situation.
Yeah, but also, like, okay, so here's the thing, okay? He took the batteries anyway, and the dad and the mum left. So this is how it plays out. The dad and the mum leave. Well, first of all, they take the thing off him, take the batteries out, put the thing down. Then, dad and the mum leave. It's the girl and the boy. The girl hands him the plane, and says, or spaceship, she says, here's the spaceship. Then the boy takes the batteries. I would like to point out that seeing as the boy already demonstrated his willingness to take the batteries of his own volition, it's just as likely that even if the girl hadn't given him the spaceship, he would have taken the battery and the spaceship as well, because, you know, he was left on his own to make that choice. So really, ultimately, it doesn't really matter that the girl gave him the spaceship, because he probably would have just taken that anyway, because he's a defiant little what's it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, actually, yeah. Like I was thinking, maybe the girl had to give him the plane or the spaceship because he couldn't reach it because it was too high for him. But no, he takes the batteries from the exact same table. So yeah, he could have. So
yes,
there you go. That's another nitpick. Anyway, I was gonna talk about your whole family thing, Michael.
Yeah.
So you were saying how, like, obviously in sci-fi, it's about family more, and in horror movies, it's not often about family. It's often about like young adults who get scared and all that. That's basically the quintessential horror. However, Michael, I will contend that if you're a parent, this might be the scariest film you've ever seen. How about that?
I think here's my theory actually, Luke. Most parents could only dream of a world where their kids are forced to be quiet or else they get eaten.
So I just want to give you a quote from John Krasinski himself. The scares were secondary to how powerful this could be as an allegory, Jesus, or metaphor for parenthood. For me, this is all about parenthood, and I was already in a state of terror about whether or not I was going to be a good father. And basically, he added that the meaning of parenthood had been elevated for him by imagining being a father in this nightmare world, struggling to simply keep his children alive. So, Michael, if you were a parent, maybe you'd have a different perspective. Maybe you'd be like, oh wow, I imagine you would put yourself in John Krasinski's shoes and be like, Jesus, this would be so scary for me, having to, make sure that my kids are safe day in, day out when there's a constant danger just around the corner.
Yeah. Here's my counter to Luke. Have you ever seen one of those like terrible made-for-TV movies that's like talking about the dangers of the internet, where like a girl goes online and then she gets cyberbullied and then she tries to kill herself, or she goes online and then she goes to a party and then she does drugs? That's what really scares parents. So basically what I'm saying is that what scares parents can sometimes just be stupid. Like I'm going to make a point when I'm older of being like a baby boomer parent. Like I'm going to make an active effort not to understand the technology of Generation Z or Z, because we're British. And I'm going to like watch these terrible films that are just like, are holograms teaching your children to do drugs? Is New Hop causing your children to sleep with aliens?
Are you just so you're just going to troll your kids into thinking you're stupid?
Like, watch this. Look at all of this. They're training you to be fighters in the Zorklon's army of Mars. Something like that. I mean, I assume that's what, seeing as I'm 23, I assume that's exactly what the situation will be when I have children.
Well, that's
where we'll be as a society.
Generation Z has already passed, Michael. The generation being born right now is Generation Alpha.
Oh, goodness me. I mean, like, I don't really get who names these generations, so wait. And also, you can't call them Alpha. The thing is, it's kind of stupid.
Alpha is fuck.
It's stupid to name generations before they've done anything.
Well, it's just alphabetical. That's all it is.
I mean, the thing is, it wasn't alphabetical. It started with Generation X. That's kind of like people, like Generation X was the last one where people cared. Well, people were like, because the one before that was Generation, it was the Baby Boomers.
But Baby Boomers actually did have a name. They were Generation, what's before X?
Oh, goodness, I can't do the backwards alphabet. Were they Generation W?
I believe so.
See, I don't know. Because here's my question, though. At some point, they must have started at a letter other than A. I don't believe they've been doing this for 26 generations.
Well, you know what, Michael? Let's just go with it. I don't know. I'm not going to question the logic. Generation X is people born from 1964 to 82. Generation Y, or millennials, born from 1982 to 2000. Generation Z from 2000 to 2018.
It's weird, because that's my system, but it's not the... Did you... What's your source for that, Luke? Because that's also the system I use. That's just how it is. No, because
is there debate around this?
There are conflicting reports around this.
What?
Apart from anything else, my dad said he was a baby boomer, even though he was born in 1965.
Nah. I mean, if you're born in 65, I can understand because you're just a year off. So you're probably closer to a lot of baby boomers.
Here's my counter. Okay, my dad is quite a baby boomer because quite a Generation Xer because he listens to a lot of alternative rock.
Oh, so he's just wrong then.
So, but my mum listens to a lot of like easy listening, like those women who just sing about how hard it is to be like women. But it's like kind of easy listening. Like I can't think of any of their names, but they're like Kate Bush or that kind of stuff. That's what my mum listens to. That's classic baby boomer music. Whereas my dad listens to things like Nirvana and Soundgarden.
Oh, that's very Generation X.
And he listens to like like the Sex Pistols too.
Yeah,
basically-
Sex Pistols is kind of more baby boomer, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a bit weird because it's kind of like, I mean, like I guess Lil Pump's very Generation Z.
Lil
What
Pump.
is essentially millennial then? Is it electro dance music? It's electro dance music.
Rap.
Kanye?
Yeah, Kanye. I was going to say Kanye, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And,
So I guess it's
rap.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely gangster rap isn't very Generation Z because, as we all know, one time, and this is a genuine story, I have some younger cousins who are officially in Generation Z, and I was listening to like some 90s hip hop. It was probably something like Biggie or Tupac or Mash Out Posse, or maybe Wu-Tang.
MC Hammer.
And no, it wasn't. It was like gangster rap. But they said literally, why are you listening to this old man music?
Oh my
It was like rap from like the mid 90s.
god.
It was an insane moment. The other one was when they didn't know how to work a CD player.
Jesus.
But I think the real kicker was when I said, "Don't you hate it when you try to put your VHS in and the person before you hasn't wound it back to the beginning?" And they just stared at me blankly.
That's crazy.
Anyway, I had two more things to say about the plot.
Okay, go on.
Okay. So this is like a nitpick, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it was a very plotty nitpick, so I'm just going to say it again. Like, at the end, the big reveal is that the things don't like high-pitched frequencies.
Yes.
That's what they don't like.
Yes.
But here's the thing, okay, the guy, like you see, has been actively looking for a way of defeating them. And also, he's got a sound system, like the system that is clearly very, it's like got a microphone. And I was thinking to myself, like, you've been actively working at it. You know that they listen to sound. Would not, let's try talking again. Would not an immediate thought be, well, let's try playing different frequencies?
Yeah.
Like, the fact that, like, it just seems like immediately, like, I mean, even if you've just seen Mars Attacks, then you know that the best way to defeat aliens is to play something and then it causes their heads to explode.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, it's something that he should have perhaps thought about before.
And why don't they live by the waterfall?
Why don't they live by the waterfall? Why don't they...
Why don't they live by the waterfall? Trend it.
Oh god, yeah, that might have worked because of how popular the movie was back in March or where it was released. But yeah, I mean, you make a good point, Michael. I don't really know what to say. Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. You should have really figured it out beforehand.
This is my big one, Luke. Possibly, I think this is kind of like the cincher between. I mean, I've actually just worked out, because this is another fact. Because I didn't have my hard drive, I didn't have access to my little rater thing. So I've only just put it into the little rater thing, into the rankings. And spoiler alert, it's not in the bad territory. So you'll find out where it is. It's not in the bad territory, but this is kind of my cincher to put it from liking it to kind of like the air position. I've decided it's in the air position. It's not in the I don't like it position. It's more like the air position. And it's this. This film, to me, it didn't have like enough stakes, and it didn't have enough of a goal. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by it didn't have enough stakes. The problem is...
You knew I was going to jump on that, didn't you?
Because obviously they can die.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's kind of like, it's dying as opposed to what? Because the problem is that their entire life is basically just one of perpetual existence in this horrible post-apocalyptic world. So ultimately, like at the end of the day, like obviously nobody wants to die, and we do have a desire to keep ourselves alive. But basically, like for the majority of the film, all you're thinking is, well, if they die now, then that basically just means that this film isn't going to go on to day 10,003 when they're all sat around eating their dinner out of cabbages. And I was thinking what this film kind of lacked is like anything the characters were actively working towards. The problem was the characters, all they were trying to do was just survive day in, day out. And you think about like the other 3 films we've watched this hallowed evening.
Yeah.
It's The Descent. They're trying to get out of the cave. It Follows. They're actively looking to all sorts of solutions, and then they kind of have the plan where they literally, they do the whole swimming pool thing. In It, they, as stupid as it is, literally walk into the haunted house in order to kill the evil clown. Like, there's kind of this idea of like, you're like, okay, I know they're going to do this, and if they do this, then they've achieved something. In this film, it's a bit like for most of the film, I was kind of thinking, okay, but, even then, I mean, it's still a pretty shitty life. And I guess, and the only thing is the film literally just at the end, it kind of gets more interesting because it's like, okay, now they have a way of beating it. But the problem was that there was like, it would have been like, I think this film would have been markedly better if there was like something where the guy was like, okay, there's this thing that we have to get, and if we get this thing, then something better will happen. Like maybe it's I don't know, but
yeah, he was contacting places from around the world, wasn't he? With
they
his
had
radio.
this beacon. It was kind of weird, actually. Okay, I have to say this. I don't really know why everybody died, because there's a bit like they have the beacon.
Yeah.
I don't really know what that achieves, but whatever. Okay, so they light the beacon to see who's alive, and there's like a dozen maybe beacons that light up around them.
Yeah.
So like that's how many other people are alive, which is actually quite a good population density. I mean, like if this was set in Kansas or Wyoming, then really there's no difference. It's just like that's how many people there usually are. But then there's a scene, and then like obviously some people die. Like they find the guy whose wife is dead. But then they light the fire, and literally nobody responds. And it's like, hold on a minute, how did everyone die? I don't really know how that happened, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I want to go back to what you said before, Michael.
Yeah. Sorry, I did kind of
low stakes.
Yes.
And obviously, well, it goes back to what I said before. This movie is told from the parents' perspective, and you're meant to put yourselves in the parents' shoes. Yeah, they might not care about dying because, like you said, it's a pretty shitty life. Like, I was thinking actually when I was watching this movie, if I was like John Krasinski, I'd be like, yeah, just kill me, give me that sweet release of death. I just don't want to live like this anymore. But the fact is, like, he desperately wants to protect his children, and so that's why I'm saying it's told from a parent's perspective. And you need to put yourself in a parent's shoes, Michael, because then the stakes are raised. Because there's nothing more important than your children.
Yeah,
the high stakes
I do actually think that's like a quite good riposte.
Thank you.
I don't know if you actually pronounce the E at the end of things.
I don't think you do.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of think. So it's not a good film, but in I Am Legend, it's not a bad film either.
No,
but in I Am Legend, I say it's actually, maybe it is a good film. It is a good film. It's not a great film. It's probably like a 6 or a 7. Probably a 6.
Yeah, the
You're
dog.
gonna give it an 8. You're gonna go give it an 8. Anyway.
The dog dying is pretty emotional.
The thing is, there's this place he has to go. Actually, yeah, the dog seems quite good. He's like, he meets that woman, and the woman's like, there's this place, and it's a utopia, or whatever. I don't know exactly what he says, but he says like, there's this place where the disease isn't there, and it's free, and it's like a refugee camp, and he's like, Insectopia. That's from Ants. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's go there. And I think that would have made it like better if it was kind of like if it was more of a Will Smith in I Am Legend sacrifice, where it's like he sacrifices himself so that his children can get to the good place. I guess the problem is it's more like it's kind of one of those weird situations, because as we know in actual biology, parents are quite willing to sacrifice a child to save themselves. Because, which when you think about it, makes biological sense, because, think about it this way, Luke. If you've got how kids are idiots? Basically,
as we've seen in this movie.
In some undeniable ways, as much as it seems to contradict uniquely human biology, or human psychology, if you've got, say, 5 kids, and they're all kind of around the idiot age, and, you can save one by sacrificing yourself, then that's probably not actually a good idea, because what it will mean is that you'll die, and then your 5 idiot kids will probably all die because they're idiots. And that's why, in actual society, like actual animal societies, like mums and dads will eat their kids when they need to survive, because they're like, well, we're not idiots, so we're gonna eat our kids because we're hungry.
Sounds like an incredibly dystopian idea.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting. Actually, no, there is a book based on that.
Yeah.
Where adults eat their kids, because. I mean, why wouldn't there be? But yeah, basically what I'm suggesting is what if people work the same way animals do in famines, and they ate their kids, and there we go, yeah. So that's what I'm suggesting I would do. If I was an apocalyptic system, I'd be like, I probably wouldn't eat my kids, but what I would do is use my kids as bait to catch something else and eat that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
eating your kids is, wrong, but it's kind of it's like a degree of separation from it. It's like you eat the thing that you used your kid to catch.
If anybody is listening to this with any knowledge of psychology, they'll be very interested in you, Michael, for a case study.
Yeah, well, I am excited to find out that they prove that I'm right.
Yeah.
Psychology proves I'm objectively right.
Yeah.
It's like new report. Psychology proves it's good to eat your kids. Anyway,
What should we get on to next?
well, see, we didn't mention it, and I think it's kind of because there's not much to say. I'm going to bring it up now, just in case you forgot to mention it. I don't have much to say about it. Characters.
Oh yeah, I mean, the kids are kids, the parents are
Yeah,
parents.
exactly.
I mean,
yeah. It's quite archetypal.
Yeah.
Like,
the
I
acting
mean, the
is
mum
good.
is literally a mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the acting is good.
Emily Blunt was fantastic. Also the kid, I'll get his name up because I don't want to be disrespectful. Noah Jupe. Oh, that's not a very good name. As Marcus Abbott, the oldest son of Lee and Evelyn and Reagan and Bo's brother. Yeah, he was very good. I very much enjoyed him. How scared he was. Like,
Yeah.
he really conveyed that very well. So props to him.
He's no Haley Joel Osment, though.
He was better than Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah.
Do you know what Haley Joel Osment is doing nowadays?
Drugs.
Probably as well. But he's in NBA 2K19 as your social media manager in your career mode.
That's so funny.
That's what he's doing.
That's
I mean,
great.
obviously he's acting. He's not actually Haley Joel Osment in the actual story. But yeah, that's how bad his career's got right now.
Yeah, child actors, man. I guess it's better than what, I've forgotten his name. Who plays Anakin?
Oh,
This is weird.
fuck.
How can it's like such an obvious... Oh, this is crazy.
No, I know it's Coruscant. Who is it?
Yeah, how can we not think of it? It's one of these weird moments.
Lloyd? Is it something Lloyd?
Oh yeah, Jake Lloyd.
Jake Lloyd. Jake fucking
Yes.
Lloyd.
Yes. Anyway, yeah. He literally hates Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Which, to be fair, like, basically he was just ahead of the curve. Because he hated Star Wars, like, during the prequels and everyone was being angry
hated
at him.
Star Wars day one of production.
Yeah, he hated Star Wars before The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
So well done him.
So yeah,
Anyway.
props to Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, who obviously directed this as well. So well done him. He was great. Millicent Simmons, well done to her, and special well done to Noah Jupe, because I thought he was very good.
Yes. One more thing, actually, before we move on to scariness. I want to point this out. This isn't a criticism, but I have to bring it up. This film clocks in at literally seconds past the 1 hour, 30-minute mark.
1 hour,
which means
30 minutes and 14 seconds.
Yeah. So basically, it's like it did the bare minimum to be considered a film, which I'm not actually like saying is a bad thing.
No.
I just found it kind of funny.
Well,
I was just saying, like,
yeah, I did think like it took them 45 minutes to really get into the movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff of them just, you see how they cope, and how they go about their lives in this world, and then all of a sudden, like, halfway through the movie, it just bursts into life, and, there's like, monsters like every 5 minutes showing up now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's like,
that's classic horror movie formula is you have the first half an hour, half, it's just build up.
but just talking about it in regards to the length, obviously, the length, it's short, but again, I was like, hey,
What she said.
I didn't have a problem with it, because
Oh yeah, I didn't either.
it's like, hey, do I really need to see anything else? Not really,
No.
no. So if they had an extra 20 minutes on, it wouldn't add anything. So I'm fine with it being short.
I'm looking forward to the special edition.
Yeah. That's the thing. I was thinking, like, because it was short, and I was thinking, we sometimes do criticize movies for being too long. We never seem to criticize movies for being too short. Like, I've never sat back after watching a movie and thought, that was too short. I can't remember that really being the case. I have said before, look, they could have added this scene or that scene. That's not really to do with the length.
Yeah, I think like if you were to criticize a movie for being too short, it would kind of be like a pacing thing.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I think that this is just a little mini review here. I think that season 7 of Game of Thrones is too short because they cut the number of episodes and everything feels really rushed.
Everything feels stuffed in, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the equivalent. So if you say like something feels rushed, I guess that's the best thing.
Fair enough.
But yeah, anyway. But apart from that, we need to talk about scariness. Now, you were saying how this film is scary
If
from
you're
a
a parent,
parent's perspective.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ignore that for a minute
Okay.
and talk about this film as, just a normal person on Halloween. Me, personally, I did not find this film scary at all.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would say parts of it was scary. I mean, once you stepped on that nail, like...
Oh, yeah, see, that was more uncomfortable. That made me cringe.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't scary. It was just like, oh, that must be painful. Like, I'm sure you've, like, stepped on, like, Lego or something.
Yeah, anyway, it was kind of overkill, because it's kind of like it hurts enough. I tell you what I did the other day, Luke. I was doing some digging for various reasons, and as I was putting the
Oh god, that doesn't sound good, does it?
and I was kind of like going to put the spade away, and I was kind of, casually just swinging the spade back and forth, just casually, not hard, just literally letting it fall back and forth in a pendulum motion, and it hit my like ankle, like the little bally bit on the side of my ankle, also known as your ankle, and and it just like hit it, literally just at the speed of its natural swing, and it felt like I'd been shot in the foot. It hurt so much.
Yes.
It was like, I was like looking at it like, surely it's broken. It hurt like more than anything in my life. And all it was just like a gentle swing. So basically what I'm saying is when it comes to feet, I mean, stepping on a nail, like, I mean, I feel like it's probably one of those things where it would almost be like just shock.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's one of those things, like, people think like, oh yeah, stubbing your toe hurts a lot, so getting your face punched to pieces would probably hurt a lot too. But really, basically our minds can't handle that much pain, so who cares? Tread on all the nails you like.
Yeah, I will say this for the scariness. What I did like was the tension after that sound is made, and it was right at the very start of the movie when you heard it for the first time. I was like, oh, this is really good. So there's some fire. The lamp gets knocked over and something gets set on fire, but obviously that's not the issue. The issue is the sound of the lamp hitting the floor. And then all of a sudden, like, they're just waiting for like 5 seconds to hear if there's a creature coming. And obviously in the end it's just a couple of raccoons messing about on the roof. But yeah, it's like that tension, that few seconds afterwards, you're listening to see if the creatures are coming or not. I think that right there, that was the scariest moment, and I think they should have perhaps done that more.
Yeah, that would work quite well. And kind of like taking a leaf out of the Descent's book with maybe a few moments where people are trapped in caves. No, with a few, like, I don't know, moments where something horrifying is happening and people have to be quiet. But yeah, overall, I mean, I would say, because it's interesting that you say this. You said this film was a sci-fi film first, and then you mentioned horror film second, because that's kind of how I feel about this. Like, I would consider this film to be like more of a sci-fi film than a horror film. Like, I mean, I mentioned Signs and War of the Worlds and things like that, and that's kind of where I would place this film. Like, obviously, the idea of aliens coming to Earth and killing people or stalking people or running around your farm is like a scary idea, but it's not something that I think is gonna play on your mind too much.
Yeah, it's not really a Halloween type movie.
Yeah,
I'll say that. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Yeah, also the creatures, I think that they weren't really that scary either.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, especially like the creatures in the Descent weren't that scary, but the creatures, I mean, in It, the clown itself wasn't scary, but some of the things it made itself look like were pretty scary. Not that scary, but slightly more scary than these creatures. The creatures kind of, I don't know why, but I got like a video game vibe from them.
Well, yeah, they reminded me of the alien from, Alien.
Yes.
So they're just called aliens, aren't they? They're not called, are they called something else?
Oh, I know, they're called xenomorphs.
Xenomorphs, that's it. Fucking xenomorphs. Yeah, they remind me of xenomorphs. They were very OP though, these aliens. They were like so fast, and they had like these massive long arms, and like if they could see, then it'd just be fucking crazy. Like, although I did say before how I don't really care how it came to be that these aliens were, well, they're not aliens, these monsters were running around the Earth killing everybody. It'd be interesting to see like where they actually did come from, because these they're killing machines. Like, they're just built so well just to kill. But yeah, anyway. I did think actually, I think we should mention the Predator problem, which of course is the problem which you have discussed. Yes, you coined it, the phrase, and you discussed about in our previous horror movies about how the monsters or the creatures are hard to defeat at first, but then by the end of the movie it's pretty easy. And it's like, well, that wasn't much of a challenge, was it? And here's the thing, like, I think the creatures were fairly consistent.
Yeah, it wasn't I wouldn't say it was as bad in this film at all compared to every other film we've done so far has been worse.
I did have an issue there with one of the creatures. When he attacks Lee, when Lee has that axe, I was disappointed with that, because when the creature does do that, and this really isn't about the scariness or its consistency, It's just like Lee wasn't really. That's the name of the character actually. So John Krasinski. John Krasinski wasn't making a sound when when the creature, where he turns and looks up and sees the creature on the roof, and he's not making a sound, and then the creature goes to attack him. So it's like the creature can see him, but obviously, as we know, he can't. The creature is blind. So I was like, well, why does he look at the creature and attack him? I think I was going to mention this because I think it's too big for a nitpick, because it obviously eventually leads to the death of John Krasinski. So I was a bit disappointed in that moment, to be honest, in regards to the creature. Like, they were fairly consistent, and then it's just like, oh yeah, he looks up at the creature. Like, if he'd made a sound, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's fair, but he didn't. He just looked up at him and got ready to swing. But, that's one of my issues.
Yeah, I agree. There's a bit of a inconsistency. This film kind of felt Twilight Zone-y. I was just thinking about that. Like, it's like the idea of like the Twilight Zone. It has these science fiction what ifs. What if you lived in a world where you couldn't make a sound? What is the Twilight? I can't think what the Twilight Zone music is, but whatever the Twilight Zone music is, put that over this film, and it would be like do 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 do.
Well, you think about it, the Twilight Zone is just a list of interesting premises.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like interesting premise. Yeah, I often do think actually they should remake the Twilight Zone and put it on like Netflix, because that's the thing. I watched a few episodes and they're really good. I was like, you know what? Why not just remake them?
Because people don't like watching things from the past.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh, it's from the 60s or the 50s or wherever it's from. It's like, nah, not really. But it's like the Twilight Zone remade, and it's got like modern graphics and so on. It probably will be better if you just remake some of the stories. But yeah, anyway, that's a separate topic.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is, this is the problem with short stories nowadays. People like money too much, so if you come up with, a premise, people will go, oh, we're not going to use that as just one short story. We're gonna milk that.
No, it can be a Black Mirror type thing. Just see what Black Mirror is doing. It can just be that. Obviously, Black Mirror is like, oh, how would technology affect the future or a modern world? So there would be a difference between Black Mirror and the Twilight Zone. Yeah, I think it could work.
I agree, it could work. Yeah, so that's good. Let's remake Twilight Zone.
Yes, glad we've agreed on that.
It's a deal. Why don't we remake George Romero's series, Tales from the Dark Side?
Sure, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it was great. It was like made in the early 90s, but the acting is like it's from some kind of porno, and the graphics are like it's from the 60s. It's like, hey babe, what? It's classic horror movie acting. That's what it is. Hey babe, loosen up a bit. It's fine. I don't know, Ron. I'm worried about that alien report we saw.
The alien report.
Yeah, the alien report. But yeah, the important thing is that they had really quiet sex.
What? Who?
John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
I did mention this. I was looking forward to, well, maybe I wasn't looking forward to it.
Watching their really quiet sex.
I was looking forward to the conversation between them, because I thought it'd be really interesting about her pregnancy. So, okay, what was that?
That was the sound of my headphone accidentally hitting my microphone.
Oh, right, okay. Anyway, so I was looking forward to that conversation about her pregnancy, because I thought it'd be really interesting to get, for example, the conversation could be like, oh, you know what, we shouldn't bring a kid into this world.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, but I don't want to kill this kid because, what happened with our other kid, who whatever he was called, I can't remember. But yeah, it's like, oh, I think it could have been interesting to have that conversation, but unless they did, and I couldn't tell because they were using sign language, I don't think they did.
I don't think they had actually very many moments together after she got pregnant, because obviously, like, he's mostly just away trying to get his kids, and she's at home trying not to get eaten.
Yeah.
The way it should be. Good old-fashioned America. The man out protecting his kids out in the country, the woman at home making kids and sandwiches and trying not to get eaten.
Well, it turns out this invasion of these monsters has led us back to what makes America great. Traditional family values are back in fashion.
It's traditional family values.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. What if, the big twist at the end is that she kills the kid because she doesn't want to bring him into the world.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. That would have been interesting. Maybe have that conversation I don't know. Maybe it gets rejected because maybe that's a bit dark, but at least have a conversation. Like, maybe John Krasinski regrets having sex and obviously having the kid. Like, he just like, oh, we shouldn't have done it. What were we
Maybe they should
thinking?
have had a scene where he chops his balls off.
Oh, God. Great stuff. Anyway, I think we should get on to the conclusion, Michael, unless you got anything else to say.
I've got nothing else to say.
All right. So do you want to conclude first, or shall I? It's up to you.
You can conclude first.
Okay, so I shall do that. A Quiet Place, then. So it's a unique movie. It's fresh, very interesting premise, and I think it's executed well. There are some inconsistencies. There are some things like how John Krasinski dies, or what leads up to his death. His kid at the beginning dying, and as you pointed out, Michael, you had 7 nitpicks, and some of them were credible. But yeah, overall, even though there was a lot of, I'm not sure that really should have worked like that. Wait, why are you doing it like that? Oh yeah, we didn't actually talk about what you do to get around this, did we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the problem is, based on the rules, it seems like if you just have a mattress over your head, you're fine.
Yeah, I was thinking, why don't they live in a boat? And you said near a waterfall because of the sound, and that's good. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
A boat would be a good idea.
Why not live in a boat in like the middle of the ocean? I mean, surely they've been alive for a year. Surely they can find where the nearest ocean is. America's not that big.
That's a good idea. Here's what I was thinking at one point. I was thinking, like, what you want to do is get a really kind of solid door and put like cheese wire, like crisscrossing across it, and then make a really loud noise and just watch all of these monsters come in and get shredded to pieces. But I am assuming that cheese wire would kill them, which maybe I would end up dying.
Well, the shotgun doesn't work against their armor. So
yeah, no, but I'm thinking like cheese wire. You know, it's a pretty. Like, here's the thing. Okay, it's a combination of it's very thin, and they'd be hitting it at very fast speeds. So it will be a lot like that scene in Final Destination where a guy gets shot into a chain link fence and ends up getting sliced and diced. Which would be great.
Maybe. Yeah, and the fact that they've got such great fucking body armor, or their skin is impenetrable. It just shows how fucking OP they are, these creatures. Anyway, so they should have lived on a boat, basically.
Yeah, your boat idea is good.
Yeah.
So I like that idea.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you would. To be honest, I could live on a boat anyway. It sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
Unless you're afraid of the water, like me.
Indeed. Back to the conclusion. So yeah, as we've said, there are some inconsistencies, there are some issues, but if you just forget all about that, which I think because of how good the actual movie is, I think you can. It's very, very interesting. It's very good. Obviously, as John Krasinski said, it's told from the parents' perspective, so to truly appreciate this movie, you have to be a parent. I think that would be fair to say. And that's what makes it truly scary, and maybe myself and you, Michael, maybe because we aren't parents, we can't appreciate that, but yeah, fair enough. The focus on the family, like I said, I like it.
Focus on the Family is a conservative think tank in America.
How do you know that?
I don't know. Like, I think they do quite a lot. They're like one of the major conservative lobbies.
I've heard of Heritage Foundation, Turning Point USA.
Yeah. I think they're more like economics. So I guess.
Right. Okay, fair enough. These are like social conservative kind of people. They don't like abortion and so on. Okay, I can see that. So yeah, like I said, I've watched so many of these movies. You don't really care how this apocalyptic thing really happens, and this one, it just is like, we don't really care about how these creatures came to exist, and we're just going to show how this family is coping with it, which I give a thumbs up to. And again, the fact that what's unique and what's fresh about it is the fact that there is no sound basically throughout the movie. It's completely different to most movies that you've ever seen. Like, even in the first few minutes, it's like, wow, this is completely different to pretty much anything I've seen. Obviously, you can compare it to the Weeping Angels, like I did, but they take it to such an extreme in this movie, having to overcome this problem. It really does make it fascinating to watch and to see these characters cope with this. So overall, it's not the scariest, and if we're doing this because of Halloween, so yeah, that's a bad mark against it, but overall pretty good. So 8 out of 10, I'm gonna give it.
Yeah, I think this film was a really good premise. I really enjoyed the premise. I thought it was a good opportunity for some artistic decisions to be made. I would have liked it if they would have taken the premise possibly even a bit further and pushed for, having the characters really immersing you in this world where, these are the decisions you have to make. This is how you have to act because you can't make any noise. I didn't find the film massively scary. I thought the film was, I'd let my kids watch it, depending on how old they were.
I think it's PG-13 actually.
Yeah, PG-13. That seems pretty reasonable. I'd say it's like one of those PG-13s where it's like a kind of it's like a Revenge of the Sith style PG-13. It's like, yeah, it's a PG-13, but it's not too bad. Anyway, but my main problems with it is that, and like I say, this is one of those moments where for me there were just too many things that didn't make sense. There was a really good part of the film, which was all of the clever, subtle things, like the way that they live in this world, the way the small things that affect how their actions work. But then all of that is contradicted by, the variety of inconsistencies. And for example, the one I didn't even think of, which is that the creature at one point attacks John Krasinski when it wouldn't have been able to hear him. But, there are all sorts of inconsistencies, and I think that it does put them all together, and it's a bit like, it makes the premise hard to take seriously, which is a bit annoying because the premise is the best part of the film. The other reason why I don't like it so much is, like Luke said, it's very good because it has this focus on the family, which gives it a good emotional heart. The problem is that there was nothing I was really rooting for apart from just like their continued existence. I wasn't like, oh, they've got to get to this place because if they get to this place, then they'll have achieved something, or they've got to get this one thing that will defeat them. It's kind of just like, okay, well, they die. Or they don't, and I guess that sucks for them. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't find much of a emotional heart in the film, and I think that was partly because the film didn't establish too many stakes in my mind, and partly because the film had quite a few inconsistencies, which made it quite hard for me to be like to take the premise very seriously. However, having said all of that, I think the premise was pretty good, and I did like it. I'm actually going to put it one below Predator, and that's because I think these films are kind of similar. It's a evil monster trying to kill everyone. This film had an advantage. It had 3 advantages really. Two. The advantage number 1 is that it was about a family, which was good. The advantage number 2 is that it was about like a very interesting premise. The problem is both of those advantages were kind of sacrificed by the other problems of it, while Predator kept it simple. So I'm going to put it just one below Predator.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I see you were more bothered by the issues in the movie than I was, but yeah, fair enough. I can see that.
Yes, it's important that we learn to respect people's differences.
Yes, it is. So
that's the only way we're going to grow and heal as a nation.
Yeah.
As we approach Brexit.
Good.
So next week, well, that's everything. But next week we will be ending our Halloween special, and we'll be looking at a film. Well. A Christmas film.
Wait.
Because, of course,
What do you mean? Christmas. I thought we were ending the Halloween specials this week. The Grinch.
Oh, sorry. What I mean is, this week we will have ended the Halloween specials.
Yeah.
So next week we will have ended Halloween specials. And we'll be looking at a Christmas film, which is Jim Carrey's The Grinch, to celebrate the release of... Have you seen that trailer yet? Luke?
Yes, I've seen it like twice, yes.
Yeah, good. I couldn't remember if we'd...
No, you told me all about that trailer, yes.
Yes, great. And yeah, so we'll be looking at Jim Carrey's The Grinch. Anyway, Luke, would you like to sing us out, play us out?
Yeah, sure, Michael. So thank you for listening to our review of A Quiet Place. And yeah, join us next week for The Grinch. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And yeah, in the words of John Krasinski...
Good one.
It's funny because he's dead, so he can't speak. Goodbye.
Now he should be called John Speak Less Krasinski.
Yeah,
we'll cut that. Yeah. That's terrible. We'll cut it.
Yeah,
anyway, that was good.
I was going to make a joke about Millicent Simmons, in the words of Millicent Simmons, because he's actually deaf, but I was like, maybe that's not very tasteful.